Welcome to the Dome Discussions Podcast. Your top source for all things New Orleans Saints. Powered by four voices who live and breathe black and gold. Touchdown! Every hit, every play.
Welcome to the NFL.
Every moment. We've got it covered.
Let's go! Let's go! Go!
What's going on, Who Dat Nation? Appreciate everybody tuning into the Dome Discussions Podcast, brought to you by the Be in the Know Network. I'm your host, Kyle Besson, joined by Caleb Yacarino, Nick Jennings, Andrew Collins, and we have officially finished the Saints' first week of football. The Saints sadly lost 20-13 in what ended up being quite a thriller at the end. There's a lot to take away from the game, but we first want to recap, important stats and things that we got. Who would like to start us off with it?
I can start us off. I'd like to start by saying what I mentioned at the end of last episode, which is I'll be looking at this season not off of wins and losses. And while looking at this game, obviously the Saints lost, but I saw a lot of positives in this game as well. I thought Spencer Rattler looked okay. Obviously, he wasn't great, but he had one pick, but it was called back due to a penalty on the Cardinals. But other than that, I thought he looked good. Didn't have many turnover-worthy throws. I feel like he needs to put his receivers in a bit better position. Had a couple hospital balls, a couple to Chris Olave as well, which that's not what you want to see. And look, I thought the running game looked good as well. Would have liked to see a little bit more. But obviously, Kellen Moore is getting a feel for his new roster, and look, the Kendre Miller, hype train looks to be as good as it's ever been. He carried off what he did in the preseason. He looked great. Alvin Kamara broke off for a big run as well. Had that touchdown, his first rushing touchdown since week 6 of last year. So there's definitely a lot of positives, but I think I'll wait till the good and bad because there's one main area of this game that really stood out to me in a bad way.
Yeah, as you said, there's a lot of takeaways from this game, good and bad. I think the surprising thing to me was I felt better than my prediction was. I really liked a lot of things with the team. This was not a 3-win team that I saw on the field today. This was an 8-win team, but the mistakes were 0-win team mistakes. And I think that's the separation where I was like, the players and how they played, it was actually pretty good, but the mistakes were bad. When we're kind of going game from game, like Nick said, you have to also be looking at Spencer Rattler. Kellen Moore said this wasn't going to be a QB battle going into the season, but look, it's a QB battle still. We're going to compare the potential of Tyler Shuck, and we're going to compare what Rattler's doing on the field. My biggest takeaway from this whole game was that Spencer Rattler is a game manager in the NFL. But the Saints roster is not good enough to have a game manager at quarterback. And that's where the issue is happening. Spencer Rattler is great throwing short, maybe taking a shot here and there, and making plays in speed up 2-minute drills. And the Saints knew that because they were playing tempo most of the game, which again, we'll get to the penalties later, but that's a reason why a lot of penalties happen. That's a reason why players get tired is by going tempo over and over and over again. Spencer Rattler's great in that, but if you can't go tempo, Spencer Rattler struggles. And that's the issue. And I didn't see enough from him that I'm like, oh, you're going to be our franchise quarterback in any way, shape, or form. First game of the season, but you have to take that into consideration with Tyler Shuck breathing down his neck.
I think Nick said it perfectly. When this season isn't defined by its wins and losses. Yeah, obviously this hurts. We should have had the touchdown at the end, the Juwan. But I feel like there was a lot of good in this game. Rattler, as Caleb kind of said that perfectly too, I don't think he was a star quarterback. He wasn't making highlight level plays, but he wasn't bad. He didn't make any big mistakes. He didn't do any of that, which is a good sign for the year to come. And I thought some of the stuff we saw, obviously the head coaching, some of the timeouts, game management, stuff like that could be improved. But that's a rookie head coach. I'm not going to read too much into that. That'll improve. But I thought the play calling on both sides was amazing. Maybe a little bit more run on the offense. I'm getting nitpicky, but I thought that was really good. And that's kind of what you want to see. This game is far from where the Saints want to be, but I think it was a very good start.
Yeah, and for me, I think a lot of this game for Spencer Rattler looked good. I think Spencer Rattler did his quite well, and like you were saying, Caleb, in that like quick offense, high tempo offense, get to the line, quick passes and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I figured was going to be a lot of this with week one. I'm actually upset we didn't get to see more of Spencer Rattler staring down 11 defenders. And we heard him check plays quite a bit, which is, to me, that's pretty – it's something to see because he's a very intelligent quarterback, but I think Spencer Rattler is also very talented. I mean, Spencer Rattler has a very talented arm. He saw him make plays with his legs, elude the defense. There was quite a few things and I know you said Spencer Rattler is a game manager in this league. I don't agree with that. I think he's got a higher ceiling than that. He's also got a lower floor, and the Saints went ahead and put him on the leash. They put him on a leash. They kept him safe, and because that interception that he threw that got called back was pretty bad. It was a pretty bad interception. It was overthrown. Luckily, got given a chance there by a penalty that wasn't even affecting the play. And then also, Nick, I think you said Rattler didn't put the ball in harm's way. I actually disagree. I think there was quite a few throws that Cardinals defenders could have got their fingers on. He almost fumbled a ball on the run. There was quite a few chances there that he risked quite a few things there. And obviously, we'll go back and watch all 22s and, get a chance to watch these things again. I liked Rattler. I did. I think he could have easily done better. And I think a lot of what worked for him was what would work for a lot of quarterbacks was that tempo offense. I want to see Rattler, again, stare down 11 defenders, call his play. We saw it slightly with that Juwan Johnson post towards the 2-minute drill where he finally took a shot, things like that. But I said this in the post-game show with the No earlier where, I mean, the Cardinals were only giving that, though. And that's the trend in the league right now is this too high safety, run the ball against us and take the short stuff. And the Saints did that. The Saints ran the ball pretty well when you look at their averages and numbers. Nobody had under 4 yards a carry. And Kamara is the only one that had like a big burst run, but nobody had under 4 yards a carry. I think the Saints ran the ball well. I think they took what the defense gave them well. It's just on third down when they needed it, they couldn't convert. They were 5 for 14 on third down, and that's what it all comes down to is I said John Gannon, who's a defensive-minded head coach, is going to be a chess match between him and Kellen Moore, and it looks like Jonathan Gannon came out with the win there because he was able to keep the Saints to just 13. And, yeah, again, first-year starting quarterback, and it's a brand new system, everything like that. But I think the Saints went away from some things that worked a little too early.
Yeah, and I think going back just on top of my mind, Spencer Rattler had around 3 should have been intercepted balls. It was one throw to the linebacker with Juwan Johnson being covered. It was one early where it was I think it was a co-route to Rashid Shaheed that popped up, probably should have been intercepted. It wasn't a good throw. And then we know the deep Rashid pass that was intercepted by Will Johnson and taken back. And that's actually funny because in our episode before the game, we talked about how that exact play is what they should call because Will Johnson is not a fast corner. So there, I don't know if it was the throw was just inaccurate and it didn't hit Rashid in stride, but there was just something wrong with that pass, and the Saints and Spencer Rattler believed they had that play, and it just didn't work.
That's the one thing I noticed on that play too. I'm not going to get mad at Rattler for taking a shot, especially if it's one-on-one. Rashid Shaheed versus Will Johnson. Will Johnson looked amazing this game, but I still don't think he can keep up with Shaheed in a straight line sprint. So I'm not going to get mad at him for doing that. Yes, the throw could have been better, but you just want to see him attempt those shots and not get complacent and just do the checkdowns.
Yeah, and Will Johnson, I mean, he had a pretty good game himself. So from what it looked like, again, we haven't gone back and looked at it. It looked like he was just all over that play. Again, throw could have been better, but he was all over it, and he had a good day. So, it could not be on Rattler for that deep shot, and it could have just been great coverage. But with that being, we're going to go ahead and go into our next segment, which is kind of just like a who stood out for us. Preferably what was good. We're going to talk about some positives. It was a loss, and upsettingly, the Saints will start 0-1. But, they started 1-0 for 6 years straight, and they didn't do much in those seasons. So, maybe we're just doing a little vice versa here, and we're going to go on a run. I'm actually going to start us off because I've talked about him because I thought we would see it, and I'm going to talk about Juwan Johnson. Because he was exactly what we thought he was going to be. He was going to be a safety net. He was going to be the big body over the middle of the field receiver. And we saw him take quite a few hits and still hold on to the ball. That's kind of the concern is nobody else on this offense could do it. Obviously, they traded for Devon Vele, and we're hoping he could get there, but he's new. He's not going to get that role yet, and he's probably not going to see those snaps until maybe next week. But Juwan Johnson, if I could get the full numbers here, he had 8 receptions for 76 yards. He actually had 11 targets, so that they looked his way a lot. and he's going to be that safety blanket. And he made plays. He made a few plays off of short receptions as well. Was able to use his legs, and that's what I wanted to see from him. I'm glad to see Jawan get those receptions. And now I kind of have to talk about the elephant in the room. Was he missed what could have been the game tying touchdown? I don't want to put too much on him. Obviously, I think he should come down with that ball, but he was.
Drop.
I think I'm still lagging, so I'll
A
let someone
little.
take over for now. Yeah, I'll let someone take over for now, and I'll come back to it.
Yeah, I thought Jawan Johnson was awesome today. Obviously, got a little bit of deja vu from the Commanders game last year when he and Spencer Rattler had that great 2-minute drive. Could have tied the game there as well. I think they were actually going for the win on their 2-point conversion in the Commanders game, though. But Jawan also dropped that ball as well. So those are catches that you definitely want to see him come down with. But look, I think it was a very encouraging performance. We know Kellen Moore expressed how much of a role that Jawan would have in this offense this offseason to get him to re-sign with New Orleans, and that was evident by how much he was used. Just that 11 targets when we were actually pretty down on the Saints tight end room. That's significant, and it actually gives us a good outlook of what is probably to come with the rest of the season in this offense. And this could be a breakout year for Jawan Johnson, which we've been waiting for quite some time now. But another guy who I thought stood out today is the old great Cam Jordan. Caleb mentioned it last week that he loves to play the Cardinals. He's great against Kyler Murray. And look, with Chase Young being out with an injury that he said should not affect him long term, Cam Jordan took full advantage of that and had an outstanding game today. Put up 1 sack, and I believe he had a half a sack as well. So 1.5 sacks, and he was pretty good in the run game as well. So it's encouraging to see Cam Jordan still playing at such a high level this late into his career. And I think it just shows how we all knew that there was a possibility of him retiring this offseason. And I think this just shows that he was not done yet. And I'm happy that he's back on this roster. So it was good to see.
And I have his official numbers right here. You could go ahead and go right after Caleb. His official numbers was 3 total tackles, 2 solo, 1.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 1 pass defense, and 2 QB hits. Yeah. I mean, he was all over, and that looked like vintage Cam. Bull rush some tackles and things like that. It was just great to see. I don't know how much more we're going to see of it, but it was great to see it happen at least week 1.
Yeah, I'm counting that as 2 sacks because my prediction was Cam Jordan got 2 sacks, and I believe – that is what happened in my mind. He hit Kyler Murray first, and then Carl Granderson finished play. That was it. Loved what I saw from the defensive line, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But my favorite, Kendre Miller. Alvin Kamara might get the shine here because he was the number 1 running back, but Kendre Miller was making plays every time he was on the field. Kick returns, when he was hitting the backfield. I mean, this is what we've wanted to this is Kyle's guy. This is what we've wanted to see from Kendre Miller for so long, and he was healthy this game. It was everything you wanted to see from a potential future running back 1 on a team. And I know Drew loves number 3 also because why do I forget his name? Devin Neal. Devin Neal had a game too. Devin Neal had a great game when he was on the field. Like, Devin Neal was James Conner for the Saints in this game. Just run down the middle and get 4 yards consistently, and that's what happened. Kendre Miller was just the dynamic backup running back that would make massive plays, and then Alvin Kamara was Mr. Consistent, which is everything you want to see from him. I mean, it was like I messaged in our group chat while the game was going, the Saints have the best running back room in the NFL because these are 3 starting running backs right here. And do I know why they went away from the running game? No, I think it was a little bit of overthinking, but they should have stuck with it. And I know next game, who do we play next game?
Niners.
They're going to try to run the whole game. There's no way they're going to make Spencer Rattler throw 43 times again.
Yeah, and I think the emergence of the running back room has a lot to do with the return of Joel Thomas. Obviously, we've talked about that before on this podcast. And look, I also think Cam Jordan, his great game has a lot to do with the new defensive line coaching staff. You already know at this offseason, Cam Jordan, he obviously didn't get his first sack until week 10 last year. And as soon as Todd Grantham was let go or his demoted, then Cam Jordan picked up right where he left off, picking up sacks. And this offseason, he actually said that Grantham was the worst defensive line coach he's ever had in his life. So it's just interesting that these coaches have had such an impact on areas that were kind of weak spots for the Saints last season. So it's definitely good to see, because I think Brandon Staley called a hell of a game too. I really like what I saw from the coaches. Obviously, you mentioned the timeouts. I can't remember who mentioned it. The timeouts to end the half, that was iffy. You like to see that fixed, but rookie head coach in his debut, I liked it. I like Russell.
Going back to the running backs, the thing that works the most about them is how well they complement each other. Each brings a different skill set, and I absolutely love to see it. I would love for the Saints to go out against the 49ers and just pound the rock. Bring in Kamara, he'll consistently get you. He'll make a big play. Kendrick Miller, I mean, explosive, bouncing off tackles, running through people. And Devin Neal, he can go right up the middle, get you 4 yards every time. That's what he could do so well at Kansas. So I think they work so well, and I just want to see them have a greater opportunity. But kind of piggybacking off what Nick said, I'm going with the coaching staff. I mean, Brandon Staley, amazing game plan. The Alontae Taylor sack on the third down was an absolutely perfect, gutsy call, and that's what you want to see. Offensively, Kellen Moore, I thought he had a pretty good game outside of the timeouts, which everyone will talk about. But I thought he had a pretty good game plan. The one thing that I was not happy about was how many screens they gave Olave. I love giving him opportunities. He had, I think, 13 targets this game, which is what you want to see. But I don't want you to give him the ball in the screen game. Yes, he can make stuff happen, but, I mean, he's going to get killed out there at some point. I would much rather give him to Rashid Shaheed or someone like that who's still super dynamic but has shown that they can hold up better to an NFL beating. I just don't love how much Olave is getting hit, but, I mean, you're in the NFL, you're going to get hit. But I thought both the coaching staff called great games, and we'll just want to see it continue these next couple weeks.
And I love calling screenplays in general. I mean, we're seeing it, and I feel like in college football this year that just offenses are relying on screen games because it just opens up everything. It's similar to just getting a good run game. Like, it's very good, and I think I am in agreement with you that the Olave call, just never did it again. Throw it away from the playbook, and just, we saw it in preseason too. I think they did it once in preseason. No, never again. Stop it. Stop it. Stop. The other thing I agree with you, Coach. Like, I was defending it on Twitter. Like, Kellen Moore's called a good game. Like, the play calls were good. He really put this team in a position to win. And Brandon Staley had an amazing defensive play calling game. Like, there was some zone that's just picking it apart a little bit too much. He called a great game. The one thing I didn't like, and it's one certain play. Vele was one of those players that I was watching in this game because he should be a big part of this offense, and he was not in this game. That could be him being new, which I do think that's why, but he should have a bigger role. On the third down throw in the end zone, when Rattler threw a beautiful ball to Rashid Shaheed, and it was up in the air, it was going to be a contested catch situation, and honestly, it may have been a penalty, but that was like hand fighting. I understand why it wasn't thrown. It should have been. Still, that should have been Vele. He's 6'5", and would have been taller than the cornerback. That's one of those plays that the Cardinals were taking advantage of size difference in different situations. The Saints weren't. And I think that's one of those things that Kellen Moore is going to learn, because if I see that play again, there's no way I want to see Rashid Shaheed or Chris Olave there or Brandon Cooks. I want to see Vele there.
All right, and I want to bring up real quick, because it just got reported. John Hendrick said, Spencer Rattler said the tempo is something the offense wants to do all year. This is an all-year plan, and said that when they're not doing it, they have to play cleaner. So reportedly, the Saints want to do this tempo offense. They want to do it, which I'm not fully against. I think they did a good job to gas the guys out. I just don't understand the straying away from the run. I mean, we're talking about Kellen Moore here. The guy that loves to run the ball, loves to set up these play action plays. I mean, obviously saw a lot with the Eagles last year, because one thing that I think we can say is we are not talking about the offensive line right now, which is a good thing. We generally, again, we know the offense was to kind of counter that. A lot of quick plays, don't get Spencer Rattler pressured. But I think when the offensive line had a hold up, they did well. They only allowed 1 sack on the day. And like I said, the Saints were able to run the ball. They were efficient when they ran the ball. So I'm not 100% sure why we strayed away from running the ball.
Something just clicked for me. One of the things that when Kellen Moore was hired by the Saints, the biggest question mark, what offense were we going to get? Were we going to get the Cowboys offense, or were we going to get the Eagles offense? This was the Cowboys offense. because Dak Prescott would throw so many times in games and they would go away from the run game. And that was one of the biggest gripes with Kellen Moore early on. This felt like that, where it just felt like you're going away from the run way too early and you're throwing a lot of passes. So I think that might be a hint at what we're getting in this offensive scheme, which is fine, but things like today happen where you might not have the quarterback to get that done. And I think that's what it might boil down to right now. And in regards to comments about the hurry up and tempo, again, I'm also okay with that. The issue is that the offensive line and the offensive players have to be perfect for there not to be penalties. But the odds of penalties rise a lot. And if you're talking about stalling drives, yes, the tempo might get you yards, but you're going to stall drives from those penalties. And if that's what they're going to rely on with Rattler, I'm sorry. I'd rather have Tyler Shuck be in there because I don't think you have to rely on tempo with him.
All right. So I just want to name some stats for some other guys that kind of stood out as well. Carl Granderson also had 6 tackles, 1.5 sacks, a tackle for loss, 2 passes deflected. So he did his thing as well. Pete Werner was everywhere, 9 tackles. He also had a sack and a QB hit. Let's see. Olave, 7 catches, 54 yards. It's kind of, he had his catches, but it was a lot of that short game again that, weren't really taking the top off. He had 13 targets, like someone mentioned earlier. So a lot of these guys kind of made plays and did what they had to do. I do think a bit here to blame on the coaching staff on the way play calling was called, specifically offensively. I don't know if it was the best game. I know what the plan was and idea was, and it was to counter exactly what the Cardinals were doing. But at the end of the day, they still only put up 13. And then I might save this next one for our next segment, which is what was good, what was bad for us. I'm not going to start this one off. So whoever would like to start us off with what they liked and what they didn't like, probably tell us what you liked first and then player-wise, and then we'll go on.
Well, I will go first, but I was planning on going with the bad first. So just
Go. Yeah, let's contrast it a little bit.
Yeah. I think the penalties were absolutely atrocious. That can't happen again. 13 penalties for 89 yards is awful. That is extremely undisciplined. Kellen Moore noted to it being a lot of undisciplined and that a lot of it can be fixed. So that's something that you're definitely wanting to look at, especially because a lot of it was your veterans on your offensive line, like Cesar Ruiz, who still is just not looking like himself. He's just struggling a lot. I think Caleb might want to get into that, so I'll let him get into that. But and Blake Grupe missing that kick is also something that really surprised me. Had an outstanding offseason, great preseason, 96% kicker in training camp, and then misses a 37-yard kick when the Saints could have been in position to tie the game later on if that kick had gone in. So it was there. Those little things are things that separate you from being a 3-win team and an 8-win team, like you were saying, Caleb. And I think if the Saints continue to do those things, then you will see them at the bottom of the league. But if they can clean them up a little bit, then 8 wins is definitely not out of the picture. But yeah, those are kind of the negatives that I saw from the game. But also, I really just love to see the emphasis on, Kellen Moore emphasized that Alvin Kamara was going to have a heavy workload, and that Alontae Taylor was going to be have a really prominent role in this team. Everything that Kellen Moore has said this offseason was true in the game, which is something that I noticed and really think was significant considering what we've dealt with in the past. With coaches just giving cliche answers that we don't see anything on game day, what they were saying. So it's really interesting to see that. I think Alontae Taylor will only get better from here. He's obviously coming off that injury. He literally just practiced once this week before the game. So he was still knocking out some rust there. But like I said, I just think that the usage of these players, and Jawan Johnson as well, the usage of these players is really encouraging, because last year we would see guys have a breakout game and then be nowhere to be seen. So those are some positives that stood out to me.
Yeah, my positives, just starting off there, is the trenches, but not fully. I think the starting defensive line did great. Devon Godchow, Brian Brzee, Shepard did well. Cam Jordan and Carl Granderson did great. At a unit, they did great. The Cardinals cannot run the ball most of the time, besides Trey Benson run, which I will get to in a second. But the defensive line did great. And then going to the offensive line, I think the tackles did great. I mean, we didn't hear Kelvin Banks' name the whole game. Eric McCoy had a little mistake, but he looked great. I think Cesar Ruiz and Dylan Radins did fine. They both had bad penalties. Again, it could be the hurry up, it could be the tempo messing that up, but they had bad penalties. They looked fine blocking, but you can't make those mistakes. I think those were two positives, and those are two massive positives for any success of this team. And I honestly think that's the only reason they were in this game, because they just, in my opinion, they had the better offensive line and the better defensive line in this game, which is usually how you win games in the NFL. So that's one thing. But now to the negative. We got to talk about this cornerback room, which I know going into the season, we have the whole offseason, we were a little bit like, okay, it's going to be bad. And then we're like, okay, wait, hold on. It actually might be decent. Now it's looking a little tough, and it looks like it's going to be a need going into next offseason. Kool-Aid McKinstry had a tough game. He was better in the second half, but I mean, Marvin Harrison deep shot. He should have turned around, made a play on it. He was getting beat by Marvin Harrison throughout the game. I don't blame him for the touchdown. That was a full-on pick play. Like, you can't avoid that. That's hard to do. But he was struggling tackling. But my number one player that I was upset with, disappointed with, whatever, is Isaac Yiadom. There's no reason he should be on the field next week. And there's one main thing, well, two main things, because he didn't play well at all, but the comp pick. I care about that comp pick way more than I care about Isaac Yiadom being on the field next week, and with Quincy Riley being behind him, because I'd rather see Quincy Riley be in this game and struggle than have Isaac Yiadom struggle and take away a comp pick, because he wasn't playing press when he needed to. He was getting beat all the time. And the most egregious, by far, mistake was when Trey Benson looked like he was about to get stopped in the backfield on an important play. And instead, Isaac, I'm fairly certain it's Isaac Yiadom. I might be mistaken, but I'm fairly certain it was him. He was supposed to cover the edge, and he thought Trey Benson was cutting in, and he hit the offensive lineman, and Trey Benson just went around him and broke it for a long run. And then Kool-Aid McKinstry also couldn't tackle Trey Benson, so it went to like the 30-yard line of the Saints field. This was just not the game you wanted to see from your corners. And I think Alontae Taylor, when he was healthy, played well. Like, I think he was honestly the best corner of this game. But from your two boundary corners, no way. It was a tough game for them.
Mine's kind of similar to you. My positives was the defensive line. I thought that Carlo Granderson and Cam Jordan were both great coming off the edge. And Brian Brzee, like, he was in the backfield a lot, but that special teams play where he blocked the kick, fully jumped over the line, someone that big should not be able to move like that. He does that kind of play at least once every couple of weeks, and it always gets you the same reaction. But then what I thought could be improved and was not great was the tackling, especially at cornerbacks. It was not good. There was one play that really kind of stuck out to me. It was like third down, and they gave it to Trey McBride right in the middle. And the Saints had 2 or 3 opportunities to bring him down before the first down, and they just couldn't. Results in the first down, and I believe that was a long drive for Arizona. So you just have to see that. If they want any sort of success, they need to be able to tackle. They really struggled with it last year, and it looks like it's crept its way back into this year. So that's something that just needs to be improved.
Yeah, and I believe Justin Reed was in on a couple of those when he couldn't bring them down, which is not what you want to see from your veteran safety right there. And, honestly, I think you guys hit a lot of nail on the head. I do think the cornerbacks were a big problem there, but I mean, it just comes down to third down, getting the guys off on third down, fourth down, because that's the problem with the Cardinals is you were able to get these stops early on, and then it came to third down. You're playing this soft zone where Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, guys who are really talented, and Kyler Murray at this point is a veteran quarterback. He's going to find these soft spot in the zones, hit it. So maybe a little different game plans there. I don't know if you need to rush Kyler Murray a little more there. What the problem was again. Don't have the full 22 right now.
Yeah, and I think Julian Blackmon had a great game. Like he was probably the one underrated DB of this game where he kind of was just everywhere, making massive tackles. He probably could have had an interception late in the game. And like he looked better than Justin Reed in this game to me. I don't know about the obviously coverage in the back end, but like Julian.
Justin Reed had a rough game tackling.
Yeah, like, and I also said, and it was a little egregious. I won't lie, but I was like, Jonas Sanker would have had that tackle. Like Jonas Sanker, if he was in, like he probably would have had that tackle. He's a sure tackler. So if I'm going to be worried about your tackling, like now I'm scared. This is kind of was the issue with Tyrann Mathieu a little bit on the defense. Is like the tackling last year wasn't great, which was the whole team. I won't lie, but like I can't have arguably the best DB on this team struggle tackling like that.
Yeah, and let me just because like it's really crazy to look at this. I don't know, like when you look at what Brandon Staley did today, the defense allowed a total of 276 yards. It was only 276 yards for Arizona today. Defense had, was it 5 sacks? 5 sacks. You didn't turn the ball over. You almost did, but it really feels like the Saints should have won this game. And what the X factor here is they couldn't get out of their own way. Nick said it with the penalties, but I'm only going to emphasize it more. The penalties were the problem. I believe it was 13 accepted penalties. Is there not 2 other penalties that were declined? Does that make it a total of 15 penalties?
No. I think the declined were included in the 13.
The declined are okay. I don't know hundreds, but 13, no matter what, 13, 15. I mean, 10's too bad. Like that was ridiculous. The Saints offense in the most part, box score wise, was efficient enough. So it's really the Saints couldn't get out of their own way. I'm happy there was no turnovers. That would have been the icing on the cake if there was turnovers. Be like, why the Saints lose? But there wasn't. The Saints didn't turn the ball over. They were efficient enough to when you only allow 279 yards of total offense for the opposing team, you probably should have put some more points up. Not to mention, Cardinals scored 20. That's kind of that medium area where it's like you can win, you can't. You know what I'm saying? I think the defense did all right. They did a lot of bending, don't breaking. Blake Grupe's miss is another big loss for the Saints there because and then the throw up to Shaheed after before that kind of felt like the Saints moment. Let's be honest. What could have been a missed call straight to a missed 37-yard field goal, I believe it was. That feels like that's what you use to define how it goes for the Saints usually. But we'll just go by what happened, and the Saints lost 20-13. Feels like they definitely were in the game, and at the end of the day, for me, the Saints lost by 1 score in what was a tough, rough game. It was a lot of blows. Now they had to fight back from it. I think they did an all right job with Kyler Murray. He was really efficient passing the ball, but only 130 yards total offense. I think going into next week against the 49ers, and we'll get more into it next week when we can go back in and look at everything. Going in, just really work to establish that run. Obviously, clean up those penalties. And Brock Purdy's a stationary. Again, I'm kind of going ahead of myself talking about Brock Purdy's a stationary quarterback. He's not going to be as elusive as Kyler Murray was this week. So these Brandon Staley looks against him might work a little bit better. I'm from what I saw from this team this week, I think it was a very respectable showing for a team that everybody thinks, is going to be the worst team in the league. I think this is a year that the Cardinals do really well. I think they're a 10-win team, this team, if Kyler Murray finally answers the call. So I think the Saints, to what I think is a good team, showed up as much as they could. It was a all right debut for Kellen Moore. I'm not a total fan of how they played today, and I think a lot of it can fall on Kellen Moore. But I think the Saints had an all right showing against a tough team, losing by 1 score.
Yeah, as I said, this is a 8-win team right here, just making stupid mistakes, and that's why they didn't win. This is exactly this. In my opinion, this felt like a game 2 years ago in Dennis Allen's first year coaching. Like this kind of felt like hey, the defense is going to win the game here, but the quarterback play isn't good enough to make it happen. And I'm not even saying that's their only reason. Like there was also mistakes, and they couldn't push the field all the way, and they couldn't score touchdowns because touchdowns were the difference in this game. And I think that's the defense is going to do what they're going to do, but the offense is just not good enough. And that's scary right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we said it, I think, for the past 3 episodes, so I'll really emphasize it is week one, and offenses are slower week one. We'll give it that. I think Kellen Moore was settled in. I think, Caleb, you're actually the biggest advocate for Kellen Moore has started slow every year. So we'll see kind of how Kellen Moore really gets his offense going in the next few weeks. But with that being said, I believe that is our final recap. Make sure anybody has any other words that they want to say, any more takes, anything like that.
Start Quincy Rattler.
Start Spencer Rattler. Actually, before we heads out, I'm gonna let's do a little grade for Spencer Rattler's game before we do that. We'll just do a quick grade. Just I'll start with you, Nick. A to an F, like a real grade. How do you think Spencer Rattler played today?
And explain a little.
I would say a C plus, right in the middle, but on the better side of the middle. I feel like if he had a worse game, then the Saints wouldn't have been positioned at all to compete in this game. Because like you said, Kyle, I believe the Cardinals will be much better this year than they were last year. So that was a pretty, like you said, a respectable performance.
All right, go ahead, Caleb. Let's give us yours.
Yeah, I'm going to say C as middle of the road as we could get. I think that looking back, we're going to see plays that Rattler could have made down the field. And I really think that looking at it from just again, that's me guessing, but like that was the story last season. And I think there was a lot of check downs. There was a lot of there were great plays, but there just wasn't enough. And that was my whole thing during the preseason. And that was we didn't have a show last year, but that was my thing during last year also. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt because of how bad the coaching was and he was playing with backups. But you're playing with the starters now, and you're playing with better coaching. So I think C.
All right, Drew, give us yours.
Yeah, I was kind of bouncing around C and C plus, but I think I'm going to land on C plus. As Caleb was saying, there's definitely a lot of plays you wish you could have back. Some deep shots that I thought weren't good, and just even in the red zone, there were some throws that I thought were just off. But I did see enough that makes me hopeful for the future with him, and to think that he can be a starting quarterback that can win some games. And I think that warrants a C plus.
Yeah, and for me, I think I'm a little rougher just because I think he put the ball in the first half. I think it's the first half. He put the ball in harm's way too many times, and I'm not being that rough, right? I might go C minus, maybe going to the C. He put the ball in some rough areas in harm's way too many times. He got bailed twice in one drive, and it was almost back-to-back plays. But I absolutely loved what he did with his legs. I think that was what stands out to me is he did extend drives. He did extend plays with his legs. He escaped the pocket. He only took the one sack, and he kind of ran into that one, which was a little rough. But I think he did a lot with what was given. I just think Kellen Moore needs to put him in a better position next time.
And one other thing real quick, that he also threw a lot of bad passes that hurt the wide receivers and or tight ends. I think Juwan Johnson could have gotten his back shattered twice. And same with Brandon Cooks and Chris Olave in the same play got hit the same way. And it's like, whoa, guys, these are two players with concussion history. Juwan Johnson has injury history, and Rashid Shaheed was catching contested 1 yard catches. I think he was throwing his wide receivers in pretty bad situations also, which is a negative. And as you said, the interceptions, it could have gone a whole different way if those interceptions were caught when they probably should have. So I'm in agreement. I think it's a little on the worst side for me, but it's something be hey, you're going to start next week, but no confidence for the future, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and I know we are wrapping up, but that confidence thing, we barely talked on it on the timeouts. I also would have loved him to get a chance to do that 2-minute drill. I think he did a pretty well 2-minute drill to end the game. I mean, could we have not done that? And obviously different, don't know fully, but could we not have done that to get a field goal before halftime? I think I'm putting a lot more on Kellen Moore than I am on Spencer Rattler. But you go ahead and go before we close out.
Yeah, one other thing I was going to say, and it's another negative for Rattler. I'm not trying to destroy the man, but I didn't think it was the greatest performance, so that's the only reason I'm doing it. I think a better quarterback with how well the offensive line played. I know penalties are different, but this offensive line played really, really well. We were worried a little bit, but I know Drew was at least looking at that Cardinals defensive line. This defensive line could have taken over, and the offensive line plays really well. I think a better quarterback would have taken advantage of that a little bit more. Where if I know the Saints don't have Justin Herbert on their team, but if Justin Herbert was in there, he would have thrown for 400 yards. I really think it was that type of game.
All right. But with that being said, we're wrapping up this episode. Make sure you guys tune in with us on Thursday or Friday. It's one of the days. So we could preview the 49ers matchup. But with that being said, see you guys next time.